Over the past 1.5 years, we all have been facing the grueling horrors of the pandemic. But what I consider as an important milestone is not only that we are about to reach the end of this pandemic, but we have also reached a very remarkable milestone, and that is receiving 100 crore vaccination doses as a nation. But did you really know there are tons of scientists just behind making that one single dose of vaccine for you and your family? Also, have you ever been curious about how a vaccine is actually prepared? What is the technology that goes behind vaccine preparation, and how is it actually distributed to the public for general use? Well, don't worry, because we are here to talk all about that with the very special guest, Dr. Nitin Puri. Dr. Nitin is a scientist, a researcher, but is also leading the product management as a director at Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is one of the leading scientific technology companies in the world. In this episode, Dr. Nitin talks about his journey from studying at an IIT to becoming a leader in healthcare, and what kind of mindset he essentially possesses even after reaching such great heights. I promise you that by the end of this video, you'll be taking away with you a whole new perspective on life, health, technology, and ambition. So if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe and do hit the like button so that you never miss on such an informative video like this one. Now, without any further ado, let's jump right in and hear out from Dr. Nitin. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Nitin. Thank you so much for joining us. It is really an honor hosting you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure talking to you here.
To begin with, Dr. Nitin, you have been doing some incredible work as a research scientist, a group leader, and currently you're working as the Director Product Management at Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is one of the leading scientific instrumentation and life technology companies in the world. How has your journey been so far in the health tech and scientific ecosystem, and how did you essentially start your journey in this space?
Yeah, no, it's been an incredible journey. My kind of journey started almost 19 years ago when I joined a small biotech company called Ambion, where I was developing products for RNA silencing. I've gradually since then moved into different roles, and in the last 5 years have been working on molecular diagnostics and leading a team where we have developed a number of products for molecular diagnosis, including a whole portfolio of products for COVID testing. And it has been very gratifying to see that what you have developed is now being used globally in over 150 countries. It feels very satisfying to me.
That's really great. And I can only imagine the sheer amount of hard work, the sincerity and dedication you have to put in your work on a daily basis. But on the other end, I'm also sure that you must have also got some tremendous learnings which have helped you right from the beginning of your career to helping you reach where you are today. And, for me personally, that is really inspiring and for sure a hallmark of success. Also, times have changed and we all are in these tough times facing the grueling and unfortunate horrors of the pandemic. But surely we have come a long way in terms of evolving healthcare and life technology. So what, in your opinion, is the future of health tech and healthcare? And could you also demystify health tech and life science technology for us?
For if I look at the whole evolution of healthcare and health tech, we used to, a lot of what was done prior was done using techniques which were more less advanced, like culture-based approaches or tests that were not very accurate. Even today, when we look at molecular diagnostics, a lot of testing is done using almost 30, 40-year-old technologies, which are not very accurate. What COVID and what essentially SARS-CoV-2 has done is thrown molecular testing at the forefront of the tech of application. What we are seeing is a significant more need for accurate tests, which has evolved as a result of COVID. Another piece that we are seeing is some of these molecular tests, primarily using qPCR technology, earlier was not even known commonly. Now we are seeing common understanding and use of qPCR as a technology, and it's become, at the forefront of diagnostics that is being used. So I think there's the shift that is happening from older technologies to newer technologies like qPCR, which is highly specific and sensitive, and allows you to detect, make critical judgments and detect pathogens fairly accurately. What's also happening in healthcare is, in addition to having the best technologies, we're also seeing the need for telemedicine evolve. So, what had happened was that with SARS-CoV-2, there was a need for being safe. And so at-home testing or testing in, areas where you were not, there was no danger of exposure. So collection of samples in areas where there was no danger of exposure was critical. So this has given rise to much more decentralized testing and collection and testing. And, you can almost go to any, pharmacy or even small clinics, and samples can be taken, and sometimes tests can be done using point of care devices. So there's this, these two things, right? One is there's more accurate technology that is now starting to be used in healthcare, and then it's also becoming much more decentralized and easily accessible. You could possibly even get testing done in villages, which was difficult, if you look at a few years back. So I think all these trends are really helping drive molecular testing and molecular diagnostics to the forefront of healthcare, and it can help us, be much more certain about diagnosis and treatments. So that's where I see these trends that are happening, which I think is very gratifying for me to see, having been in this field for now some time.
And, in fact, I was also going through this report by McKinsey and Company, which, talked about the use cases of telemedicine and virtual healthcare in general, and, how it could go on to bring in access to basic medical facilities to people from far-fetched areas, especially the rural areas.
Yep.
And that was really satisfying for me, because I personally believe that, we all as residents of planet Earth should get access to basic services, be it education, healthcare, or proper nutrition. So that was a pretty, interesting report for me, and I got a lot of insights from that report. And now coming on to the most widely talked topic of the town, which is about vaccines. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would really be interested in knowing how a vaccine is actually prepared from the initial point of the outbreak to the actual distribution of the vaccines to the masses, and how does the healthcare supply chain look like in general?
Yeah, no, vaccines is a very meaty topic. And why I say that, earlier on, vaccines was produced by creating some kind of antibody or inactivated, virus. But what the pandemic has done is it has brought a new technology at the forefront of vaccine development. This is the technology based on mRNA vaccines. I know it's not yet widely available outside North America's, but it is, I think, an area that I feel is going to expand and make vaccines a lot more accessible to globally. These newer technologies that are coming out, like the mRNA technology, makes it very easy to develop a vaccine and have it go through a clinical trial and be validated for human use in a matter of months. This was not before, right? If we go back, vaccine development usually was a 2 to 3 year affair. And then the vaccines that were developed were also not very accurate. If you look at, going back 3 years, the flu vaccine is a very good example of a poor vaccine. It used to only cover 50% of the variants. But now, because of mRNA and some of these other new technologies that have come up because of the pandemic, vaccine development is far more accelerated and is going to be far more accurate. So I'm actually very hopeful of the way the vaccine, the area of vaccine development is going to go forward. And this becomes even more critical as we are trying to make certain diseases, eradicating certain diseases. Because if we look back, smallpox was eradicated because of vaccines. And then, if you look at just the overall how evolution of different diseases that have been eradicated, it's all been driven by vaccines. So the future looks very bright. I know that currently we have a supply chain challenge because we are, after all, trying to develop vaccines for over 7 billion people. That's the amount of doses we know, and 2 times those. So that's a 14 billion doses that we need globally for everyone to be vaccinated. And then we also know that there's a certain percentage of population that is averse to vaccination. So all these are some challenges that we do have, but they are, I still believe, short-term challenges in terms of, the supply chain piece. I believe that even in India, when I look at the work going on in Pune and some of the institutions in Pune, it's pretty amazing in terms of how they're scaling up, the vaccine production. In India, I think maybe the most vaccinated country in the world. If even though it's a very large country, so takes time to get a very large size of population vaccinated, but it is certainly a lot of effort and time that has been put in to enable what has kind of is truly amazing in India in terms of the vaccination rates that are given its 1.3 billion population. So the future is certainly bright for vaccination. We do have a supply chain constraint, but I am hopeful that it'll be a short-term problem that will be overcome in the next months to come.
Yeah, I mean, vaccination is actually helping improve healthcare across nations, whether you talk about smallpox or whether you talk about COVID.
Right.
And, this pandemic has somewhere deep down reminded us that we need to cherish the little time we have on this planet and live it to the fullest. But when it comes to taking that shot of vaccine, why, in your opinion, are people still hesitant to take it? Because the reports indicatively suggest that it is good for them and their families.
Yeah, unfortunately, the hesitancy comes from lack of knowledge, lack of trust, and lack of knowledge. First and foremost, because these vaccines have been developed reasonably fast, there is concern that the process was not as robust as before. But I, on the other hand, feel that that the process is robust. It is just that we have figured out faster ways of doing what used to take a lot longer earlier. The other is media. So there's social media. Social media, fortunately, has opened the world to us, but unfortunately, has also opened the world to a lot of disinformation. And unfortunately, that is the reason why there is a large population or a sizable population that doesn't want to get vaccinated because they don't have the knowledge to make a decision, and they're relying on others. and sometimes that information that's coming to them is not is more rumors than conclusive science, and they're basing their decisions on these rumors, which is very unfortunate. I think our best bet is to make sure that we are educating ourselves and others based on hard scientific facts and helping people make the best decision. Because if we look at it, almost 1 billion people have been vaccinated by now, and everything is telling us that these vaccines are very, safe, and they are very effective. Um, the number of people who get to an emergency room and who need really special care is very, very low if you're vaccinated. Most of the people who are suffering are patients who are not vaccinated. So the facts are conclusive. I think it's a matter of us to have faith in science and not in rumors. That is, I think the way forward.
Yeah, and that's totally on point. And what is your opinion on vaccine efficacy? And is it right to compare vaccines just based on their efficacy rates? Because here in India, I see, people choosing one vaccine over the other. So is it just right to do that, or is there any other alternative we should suggest?
Yeah, I think as a first rule, get a vaccine. Whether it's, however be the efficacy, that will, whatever be it, it will still protect you. So holding off for a vaccine that is less efficacious is not worth it. The other piece is that even if you have a vaccine that is not fully effective, you can always get a booster dose. So booster doses help you further build your immunity. So I think the less efficacious vaccines are there is some difference, right? Every vaccine there is some difference, but I think in the end they are helping protect lives. And if there is a vaccine that you've taken which is less efficacious, then you will, the data will show that you have the possibility of getting a booster dose at whatever that right time frame is. So I think the first step is get the vaccine and then take a booster dose as needed. But not holding off for a vaccine that is more efficacious is dangerous. It's not just dangerous for you, but also for your family, for everyone you interact with. So that is not recommended. So yeah, that's how I see the path forward.
Yeah, so you suggest everyone to take that first shot so that
Absolutely.
they get their families and themselves covered. Yeah, so now, Dr. Nitin, let's move on to some questions about your role as a director product manager at Thermo Fisher Scientific. And since product management is really a hot topic, especially in tech these days, what is your take on the product management role, especially in the healthcare sector? And can you possibly give our listeners a glimpse of your daily work and walk us through it?
Yeah, it's interesting that when I joined science, I did not know or appreciate what product management was about. I gravitated towards research, and that was my focus. But then you realize that more important than inventions and technology is innovation. And what does innovation means? Innovation means a technology that meets an unmet need. So product management in its real reality is where you're trying to understand an unmet need in the market and coming with a product that helps meet that unmet need. So it's not so much about invention, but as much as innovation. That's what attracted me to product management, was the possibility of reaching a market need and meeting a market need that was either poorly met or not met. And that is what moved me into this. And now that having been in this area for almost 10 years, I'm very appreciative of what the value it brings, because it is kind of, you're in the center of a nexus of team, right? A whole team. You're in the center of the team where you're guiding the team to deliver on something that the market needs. You ensure that there is a focus from a team to meet that need, and sometimes you even have to look into if the market is evolving and you need to make tweaks to meet the need. So there is that process in terms of conceptualizing the product and developing it. But then once you develop it, you have to also figure out how will you commercialize it. What are the channels you're going to be using? How are you going to have a go-to-market strategy? So it kind of is a womb to tomb, coverage of the product right from the conception and the need that you're increasing to launching the product, to developing the product, launching the product, and even obsoleting the product if it doesn't meet a market need. So it gives you that view, which is very fascinating. And we know that our markets, any market that you look at, is pretty complex with complex dynamics. There are different regions, and there are different dynamics in those regions. So you're not only fascinated by this whole life cycle of the product, but also how this life cycle plays in specific regions, because customers are not the same. A customer in North America is not the same as a customer in India or even in Africa. They have different needs. So that's something that you have to kind of take into account in product management and as you develop these products. So it's a really fascinating and a field that I would encourage young people to consider. You do need, no 2 days are the same. Every day is a new day with a new challenge. So if you like something routine, then product management is not for you. If you like something exciting, where every day is you're dealing with a different problem and you're problem solving, then certainly product management is for you. But it keeps you always on the feet, and a very exciting place to be.
So from what I understand, you're kind of an entrepreneur when it comes to you being a product manager. So those roles are somewhat, similar to me from what I can understand from a conversation over here. And also now I want to talk about the opportunities in the healthcare and health tech space, especially since it has become a dire necessity more than it ever was. And also there has been a massive boom of technologies such as AI and virtual reality. So what is your take on that, and how can one leverage these opportunities to improve healthcare for the better?
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. Healthcare is as an area is going to grow as we live longer, and as there are challenges to the environment, for us to live healthier becomes vital, right? We all want to live healthier, which essentially means is that there is a lot here that needs to happen from the health care that we provide to our patients, and to everyone, right? It's global health care that we are all interested in. From my perspective, this is an area where you certainly have to be aware of what is the next big problem that is being solved. We have been trying to solve cancer for a very long time. There is some areas which have got solved. So it's completely it's always evolving. You know what healthcare is about. But whether you are there as a researcher or a clinician or even on the business side, there's a lot here that needs to be done, because another key part of healthcare is you are in an environment which is highly regulated. You cannot, nobody can do what they want. They have to adhere to the regulations of that country and what the regulatory agencies such as FDA or in India ICMR the guidelines that they are putting on. So it's that's another aspect of this that you have to be aware of. So it's not just you're dealing with innovation, but you're also dealing with regulation and how that is used. So you have to learn about different use cases on how a particular drug or a test or or any product that is there is used, and how can you make it easier to use. As I mentioned, decentralization is certainly going to increase. That will allow us to have small clinics all over the country, in different parts of the world, which makes healthcare more accessible. So certainly there's a lot of excitement there in terms of healthcare and what we can do to support its needs and the growth that is needed.
That's that's really thought-provoking. And, I was also recently reading about the challenges in the healthcare and the health tech space, since it involves a lot of investment and time to build something new and useful, particularly for the masses, since you talked about the FDA approval and all those particular things. So what are some of the challenges which you as a product manager face at Thermo Fisher Scientific while developing new products? And are there any common myths which, according to you, need to be debunked?
So the whole start to finish process, every stage has its own challenges, right? Identifying the right problem, making sure that the product that you're coming out with is usable in different countries and different environments. You have to make sure that you have a product that is stable, transportable under conditions that are more easy. You don't want a product that's only shippable under dry ice, because that will limit to where you can ship the products to. You don't want to, you want to make sure that your product is usable by somebody who is reasonably, easy to use, not too technically challenging. So there are all these aspects that you have to take into account, because as a product manager, however you develop your product, it will be used in ways you couldn't have imagined. That is how it comes down to, that our customers use our products in ways that we not necessarily always are conceptualizing it. So those are very important, critical pieces. Now, as you start to think about myths, right? There is myths that it's too difficult. Products that are molecular diagnosis, they're very expensive to make. That's not really true, because with technology becoming more and more accessible, the cost is coming down per unit. And as we are scaling up, like even looking at vaccines, the number of vaccine units that are being made, the cost per unit has come down. So that's, products in this area are not necessarily expensive. Sometimes they are more charged on it because of just the way the product is commercialized. There are too many middlemen who are charging and adding to the cost. So if you can ensure that there is a path to getting to the end user more, less devoid of middlemen, then you can certainly, make a product more affordable. I think these technologies have a lot of great performance characteristics, which meets the needs of the market. I think those are the pieces, right? It's about cost, it's about ease of use, it's about ease of access. All these are doable. It's not like products now have to always be expensive or difficult to ship or very difficult to use, and you need a PhD to do it. I think there's certainly a change happening in making things more easier to use and easier to get access to.
I think the evolution of molecular diagnosis is, quite similar to that of a storage device, because earlier storage devices used to cost way more, and now the prices for the storage devices have decreased because of the Moore's law. And yeah, that's really, an analogy which I wanted to bring out right here. And yeah, we generally ask our guests to leave us and our listeners with some suggestions or parting advice. So would you like to share any words of wisdom, and what would they be? And also, if you have any book recommendations which you would like to suggest to our listeners.
Absolutely. Uh, I just look back at when I was, college, just got out of college, and the opportunities I had, and I look at what's kind of available today for the young. There's tremendous opportunity. Um, I think the way internet access and just what is available online makes it very easy for one to educate on any topic, right? I think it's not so much important on what you do, but it's more about learning how to do it. It's about learning to learn. That is critical. And that's what, whatever subjects you're interested in, just make sure that when you're learning those subjects, you're also learning how to learn. Because as you go forward, every field is going to evolve, and continuous learning is going to become a way of the world, right? It'll become a way of your life. So you will have to continue to educate yourself, and as we live longer, we'll certainly have to look at different jobs and different roles that we take on. So I think be flexible in your life, be ready to learn, and I think more important than that, have grit. And when I say grit, means everyone faces failures. There is nothing as someone who's always going to be successful. Grit is your ability to take failures and still continue, on your path. I think that is the most important aspect of being successful in the world. It's not about what you do, but make sure you are passionate about what you do. Of course, you have to be doing something that you enjoy doing, but also be acceptable of failures and just continue on. That I think is critical, and the opportunities are amazing, and even how those opportunities are accessible, because so much happens online. Almost anywhere in the world you can get access to supporting different opportunities that you can get to, just because of how the world has gone online, and pandemic is only going to drive more, is driving more telecommuting, right? More people being online and connected. So I think the opportunities are going to keep increasing. Follow your passion, and if you face failures, dust it off, move, go forward, and do what you need to do. And that's why, if I look at, one of my favorite books is this book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. It's a really nice way of how you are able to withstand failures and continue. Another book that I recommend, which is really nice, is a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And Atomic Habits is another very nice book because it helps you. You're not going to get to the top in one go, right? It is steps, and steps means that you need to develop yourself and make sure you're developing the right habits to help you get there. So that's what doing that 1% on a daily basis makes a huge difference on a yearly basis. So those are two books that I think are really good books to read and learn from.
That really reminds me of this book which I read recently, and that is The Psychology of Money. So, wherein the author talks about, the power of compounding and how compounding can help your money grow. So, I believe that is, that holds true in your life as well, because if you develop habits over time, you'll eventually reach that mountain of success, and there will always be failures in between, but you just need to dust them off and look towards the future and keep up the hard work, keep up the good work. So that was really, valuable advice for a lot of listeners out here. But unfortunately, Dr. Nitin, this brings us to the end of this podcast. I truly got to learn a lot from you today. Thank you so much for taking out the time for sharing your valuable insights and experience with us. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners would have learned a lot from the episode as well. Thank you once again and wish you the best.
No, thank you so much, Surya, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so delighted to see that young men like you are looking at in different ways of learning and bringing learning to others. So really, proud of what you're doing here, and wish you all the best with the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Nitin.